I'd like to call the Tuesday, October 6, 2015 Papillion City Council meeting to order. Mrs. Butler, would you please take the roll?
Florence. Mumgard. Gaines. Glover. Jaworski. Klug. Stubbe. Ingberg.
Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And do we have an affidavit of publication on file?
That is correct.
And a current copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted in the back of the council chambers. We do have one special presentation. Chief? For people that don't know him yet, Police Chief Scott Lyons and his contingent. For people that aren't aware, I don't want to discount a couple of the things that Chief said. I may be wrong on the stat, but isn't it only like 1 or 2% of agencies in the United States are CLIA certified? Yes. And that's all the way from a local agency to like the FBI. And in Nebraska, at least when we were originally accredited, it was only 5 agencies in the entire state, including the state patrol. Still about the same? Okay, so major honor, and from what I understand, the accreditation team that came in, one of the accreditation individuals probably has a reputation for being the toughest one in the United States.
Yes, and
And just again to your team, again, if people aren't aware, the recertification is a major undertaking, and that's what Kevin Covey was doing. And then he had the opportunity that he had, so he left, and we had a chief leaving, and so it really was on those two that stepped up and did the whole thing with the toughest accreditor in the United States. So again, congratulations and thank you all. Mr. Hoynes, Administrator's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I would add to that Chief Lyons was certainly appropriate in recognizing people doing the heavy lifting for him, but there's probably very few police chiefs in the United States that on their first week on the job walked through the door with a CLIA accredited auditors and had to manage that process, newly minted police chief. So certainly did a good job keeping his hands on that wheel. Excuse me. A couple of things, Mr. Mayor and Council, that are rather time-consuming and very important at this point, that spending some time on. The first one, I've had various discussions, I think, since some communication on the Sarpy County sewer study, the short version on how do we get sewer, how do we manage sewer south of the ridge line. Sarpy County, credit to them, has been leading that recent study, and they did, based on some feedback from the multiple cities, have entered into what they're titling Phase 1B of the study to see whether or not Sarpy County should create our own treatment plant south of their Sarpy County in the 5 cities, or if we should look at the option of expanding the Omaha system. Sat in a several-hour meeting last week on that process, and that Phase 1B study is scheduled to give us the costs of those two options. There's multiple hurdles to development. You're all aware, not only the sewer study, but the learning community and other issues. But that's very key and critical and important. And I'll continue. And City Engineer Jeff Thompson, Director of Public Works Marty Lemming, both were in the meeting with me. And so the three of us will try and manage that to the best of our abilities and do what's in the best interest of Papillion and Sarpy County at the same time, and give that up to you. You will, here in the next few weeks, in the most recently approved budget, you authorized $25,000 to contribute to that Sarpy County Phase 1B study. All the cities have agreed to contribute that like amount. That's really just a short term for this portion of the study, but hopefully within the next 12 months we can quit studying things and actually start making decisions and being able to address the development needs south of that ridge line. The second issue that's rather time consuming, we several staff, Mayor Black, actually 4 council members, to meet with the Community Center Project Steering Committee. We met here in the last couple of weeks, had a really good meeting. We're really at a pause point, I'll call it, in that study. We have pretty good concepts that have been made public about the scope, size, cost of a potential facility. The pause button at this, over the last few weeks, myself, Chris Myers, and Lori Hansen are really digging very deep as a staff into the financial operating aspects of that potential community center. We've got 4 or 5 different examples of other like facilities across the United States, and looking at where they're making money, where they're not, what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, really taking a very in-depth analysis of that. We should have that done tomorrow, Lori? No. Lori's doing the heavy lifting on it, and Chris, I got to give them both credit. I sit in the meeting and ask a lot of questions here in the next couple of weeks, but the next phase of that then will to bring together you other 4 council members. I think you had a meeting two or 3 months ago, and we couldn't really do much there until we knew how big it would be and what we'd be doing, but we'll be reconvening those other 4 council members and showing you our staff work, and then take that back to the whole committee, really targeting a January time frame to ask you as a collective group whether or not you think we've done enough work and that it looks good enough to put this measure on the ballot in May of this year. And so if any one of you were really striving very hard to keep the committee and the community involved and be transparent and forthright in our analysis, and have participation from elected officials too. So if you have any questions at any time, even if you're not on a committee, please give any one of the 2 or 3 of us a call, because I think we'll be able, if we don't have the answer, you're probably asking a question that we need to be looking into. So we really are seeking that input. Just to conclude, Mr. Mayor, with 3 important upcoming events. The first one this coming Sunday, correct, Chief Bose? The annual Fire Department Appreciation Pancake Feed. Is it at the Papillion downtown station? I don't know the numbers of the station anymore. I confess they've changed them. The Papillion downtown station, I think it starts at 8 in the morning and concludes at 1 p.m. So certainly would like to see you down there and support those folks. The second one, I've said a couple of different times, the Employee Appreciation dinner is next Monday, the 12th. It opens at 4 p.m., dinner served from 5 to 7, short program at 6 p.m. That's in there. And so again, if you haven't already and you're interested, contact Nicole and let her know you'll be attending. Conclude, Mr. Mayor, Councilman Stubbe is kind enough to point out to me today that the annual cleanup's coming up here soon. Marty confirmed it's October 22nd through the 25th. That's a Thursday through a Sunday. This is the limited cleanup. We won't be taking hazardous materials or tires or anything of such at that particular one. I mentioned that because I think there was a correction in the paper. They said that we would be. We will not be. That's your typical trash and other things, limbs and stuff we'll be taking during that particular time. But all that information is on the city website, and that concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Councilman Klug, second by Councilman Gaines. Do we have any proponents? Do we have any opponents? Council discussion, Mr. Glover.
Mayor, I'd like to pull C11 off
Yep.
the consent agenda.
C11 is pulled. Any other council discussion? Please vote on everything except C11.
8 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Next on the agenda is item C11, Resolution R15-0169, a resolution to approve a special designated liquor license for Twisted Vine for a sip and walk event at the Faintest Breeze, Me Repurposed Country Store, Dingman's Collision Center, Jean's Auto and Truck Service, Kajama's Boutique, The Bell Place Shop, Siefkin Contracting, Grace Salon, Your Country Connection, Sauter House, Papillion Antiques and Emporium, and Halfkey Plumbing on October 24, 2015, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Do we have a motion to approve Resolution R15-0169? Motion by Councilman Glover. Second by Councilman Stubbe. Do we have any proponents? Mr. Ehrgartner's here with the Twisted Vine, who is the applicant. You want to take a moment just to share? And it's not in the application, but this is in conjunction with the Historical Downtown Papillion Business Association, which was formed, 2.5-3 years ago. And this year is really when it's taken its own. So thank you for the whole membership for that. Do we have any other proponents? Do we have any opponents? Any council discussion? Please vote.
Eight yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next is item D1, Ordinance 1691, an ordinance to approve the change of zone of certain real property within the zoning jurisdiction of the city of Papillion, Sarpy County, Nebraska. Legally described as a replatting of Lot 383, Eagle Ridge, generally located on the southwest corner of Fall Creek Road and Cornhusker Road, from Community Commercial CC to Single Family Residential Mixed Density R2 and Urban Family Residential R3 and Mixed Use MU, to amend the official zoning map of the city of Papillion by changing the zoning district boundaries of the zoning map in accordance with Section 20532 of the Papillion Municipal Code and to provide for an effective date. Is there a council member that will introduce? Introduced by Councilman Ingberg. Public hearing will be at the next council meeting. Item D2, Ordinance 1723, an ordinance to amend Chapter 24, Section 1, delineating the voting boundary wards for the city of Papillion, to repeal the existing Chapter 24, Section 1, and to provide for an effective date. This is because of the annexation to bring those items into an existing ward. Is there a council member that will introduce? Introduced by Councilman Stubbe. Item D3, Ordinance 1725, an ordinance to amend the budget statement to be termed the annual appropriation bill, which was adopted on September 1st, 2015 by Ordinance 1721, to appropriate sums for necessary expenses and liabilities and to provide for an effective date. Is there a council member that will introduce? I'll introduce. Introduced by Councilman Gaines. Item D4, Ordinance 1726. An ordinance to amend in its entirety subsection 51-16C8 of Chapter 51, City Administrator of the Papillion Municipal Code, having to do with the city administrator's duties and powers to serve as a purchasing agent of the city and to manage and supervise purchases and contracts for all departmental supplies and services, and to provide for repeal of conflicting ordinances and to provide for an effective date. Is there a council member that will introduce? Introduced by Councilman Glover. No items for second reading. Third reading, item F1, Resolution R15-0159, a resolution to approve the First Amendment to the Summit Ridge Subdivision Agreement. Is there a motion to approve Resolution R15-0159? Motion. Motion by Councilwoman Klug. Second by Councilman Stubbe. Do we have any proponents? If you'd state your name for the record. Appreciate it. Thank you. Do we have any other proponents? Do we have any opponents? Any council discussion? Mr. Stubbe.
Yeah, Mark, I'm just curious, what's the percentage of development of Summit Ridge? Is it pretty well developed out, or is there, am I throwing you a curve here?
You would ask me that question. Not prep me on. I don't.
Okay.
I know that they have a very healthy general fund account.
Okay.
They're running pretty solid. This amendment will be paid out of the general fund account. Thank you.
Mr. Mumgard.
I just wanted to point out for the council that I am not going to ask for space for a splash pad in this park. Thank you.
Any other council discussion? Please vote.
Eight yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Next is item F2. Resolution R15-0171, a resolution to approve the intent to bond improvements to Schramm Road. We almost need a drum roll for this one. From 84th Street to 90th Street. Do we have a motion to approve Resolution R15-0171? Motion by Mr. Florence, second by Councilwoman Klug. If I ask for proponents, we'll be here with about every citizen in the city of Papillion until about Thursday of next week. But anybody in the room a proponent? Do we have any opponents? Any council discussion? Please vote.
8 yeas, 0 nays.
And again, if people are not aware, we're talking about Schramm Road between 84th and 90th will finally be on the path of being paved. Most complained about thing I think we get in the city. So thank you again to the council for that. That's been a long-standing item, and it was a tough issue to sort of resolve, and it's following a, just thank you very much. And Senator Smith as well played a role in that, so we want to publicly thank him as well. I don't think any committees met. Any comments from the floor? I see we got some students here. You guys got to come up and introduce yourselves and why you're here. Come on up. Students, scouts, anybody under the age of 18. Mr. Keller's class?
Mr. Wagner.
Okay. Got a new teacher sending people. And 463 is from what? Who's the charter organization? Where do you meet?
Methodist Church.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. And on the merit badge, if there's anything else you need to meet the requirement tonight, a few of us could hang around and visit with you if you need that. So thank you all for coming out. Any council comments? Ms. Klug.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to take a moment and recognize a lot of people around the city of Papillion. On September 26th, the band boosters out for the Papillion Titan marching bands hosted a huge marching band competition. And it takes a lot to pull that off. It's a lot of volunteers that we get out there. But I also want people to realize just how much the city played a part in that. Before it even started, Public Works showed up and they dropped off some caution tape to help our kids stay safe. They put out cones for us, made sure we had what we needed to keep that working. And they were kind enough to keep a road open for us, which was a huge, and it is greatly appreciated. Thank you, gentlemen. We went on, we started setting up that morning, and who showed up but one of the police officers? And just casually pulled in and said, okay, Luann, what do you got going on this time? And made sure that I had a direct number so that I could reach him instantly in case I had any real serious issues. Fortunately, we never called him, but I thought that was a real nice touch that an officer would come all the way out just to see what was going on. Of course, we did have 59 buses there, so that might have had part to do with it. As we went on throughout the day, I was concerned and a little scared. At one point, we did have to call for an ambulance service. We did have a student go down, not from the Papillion schools, but we did have a student go down in our parking lot. Sarpy County 911 was the most professional, made sure we stayed calm, made sure we knew what we were going on and doing. We did have a registered nurse on site all day that we had brought in as a band, but then of course our ambulances started rolling in and you know, the sirens are going off and all that, and it's like, okay, this gets a little more scary, and they were very calm, very professional. At the same time they were rolling in, Sarpy County Sheriff started showing up. I'm assuming that the police officers knew that and had put the word out that we had a little over 4,000 people out there at this point. And so they all came, made sure that the parents and that the chaperones were calm. All of the police officers, whether they were Papillion or Sarpy County, made sure everything was going the way it should be, while the ambulance crew worked with our high school student to make sure that he was okay. And one of the biggest things for me, because that's a huge high school campus out there and I'm all over that place, is our golf courses. They are kind enough that during that event they loan us multiple golf courses, so that as whether it's the band director, myself, or our judges, we get transported around in those golf courses, and that saves a lot of time when we need to get supplies to different locations and that. So it is recognized and appreciated on all of this. And not to be forgotten and absolutely appreciated is our Parks and Recs team. They were having a huge event over at Sumter Theater. They worked with us to let us use their parking lot in the morning and most of the afternoon for some of our overflow parking. We really appreciated that. They ran their event. We didn't even know that their running was going on, the way they set up their course. And then we had a huge concert over there while we were having our bands compete over at the field. And for those of you who know the landscape, Foundation Field and Sumter are not really that far apart. They're pretty close. You know, we worked together. We had some great communication. Lori and I talked back and forth, and I just cannot express enough my gratitude for the steps and measures she took to help make the high school event successful, and hopefully still had a successful event yourselves. But as you can see, for something big like this to happen, for what I would consider a fine arts event to happen, we had 14 marching bands plus our own varsity and campus band marching that day. As I indicated, we had over 4,000 people on campus for basically the entire day. It took a lot of efforts at the school. It took a lot of coordination with the city, and everybody's role truly made it an outstanding event. And just as the chairperson for that, I'd like to say thank you to the city of Papillion. It was a huge success for us, and we appreciate the cooperation.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Mr. Ingberg.
Just a quick mention, work continues on Veterans Park. You may, if you drive by, notice OPPD's been there. They're in the process of burying power lines, and the flat work forms are in. And they're going to get ready to pour the flat work. It started looking a little bit like a Veterans Park now. And thank you, Tony, for all your help in making sure that project keeps moving forward. Thanks.
Bet. Any other council comments? Just a couple of things from the last couple of weeks. Been out visiting second graders. Again, second grade's when they start introducing civics, so levels of government, separation of branches, rights, responsibilities, laws, elections. So I've been out to Prairie Queen, Carriage Hill, and Anderson Grove to visit about those things. Thank you for those that have been attending the ribbon cuttings. We've had a couple of them. Stave Wine and Cheese, which is next to the Northwoods Cheese House right across from City Hall. They're now open in the house. I've done a great job inside, and now it's a little bit of a bistro, and they serve food in there periodically. So look for those open signs and events, and they have another eating place downtown that's high quality. And then Prairie Queen had their ribbon cutting, and what was interesting about that is some of the students from the original Prairie Queen school were there to welcome the students from the new building. Mr. Hoynes mentioned we've had several of the Park and Rec Steering Committee meetings, and again, you'll be getting updates for that fairly soon. Made a presentation at the Nebraska League of Municipalities regarding the fire department merger, the idea of how can local municipalities or different government agencies cooperate to save taxpayer dollars, and that's an item that's resonating across the state. So Mayor Kindig and I presented on that, and we've got another opportunity to present that as well. Also went and met with the National Association of Remodeling Industry, the Omaha chapter, talk about Papillion, its processes, how to work with our building department, how to work historical downtown, or what codes we're on, and try to encourage them to continue to work in Papillion. Lori, again, thank you for the event at Sumter. Doug and the staff and you guys do a great job there. And then Senior Center had a great fall festival as well, and I think that was a high success. So a lot of energy at the Senior Center, so I want to thank those folks. Mr. Hoynes and I attended the United Cities meeting. Again, the major topic was the sewer study, but we're also talking about the legislation. I think the biggest thing there is what's the state doing around economic development incentives, LB 775 and ConAgra, and all of that puts that at the top of discussion. We were already talking about it, but I think that'll be the big topic of discussion at the legislature. But if you guys have ideas or things you want to make sure we're talking about, now's about the time, because it's a short session and winding down summer, so that session will be here real quick. So if either you want us to be following bills, interim studies, or looking at getting things introduced, raise that to us so we can make sure we've got that accounted for. Then just the same reminders that Mr. Hoynes gave. Sundays, the pancake feed from 8 to 1 downtown fire station. The employee appreciation on Monday. Look forward to seeing everybody there. 5 to 6 is probably the critical period, but that is 4 to 7. And then a lot of people have been asking about the cleanup days. And again, October 22nd to the 25th at River City still? All right. Keep your tires and oil at home. I think that's it. Any other council comments? Do we have a motion to adjourn? Missed that. Motion by Council Glover. Second by Councilman Jaworski. Please vote.
8 yeas, 0 nays.
We are adjourned.